What is going on, YouTube? Exellion here, and today we are going over one of my favorite classes of Diablo 3, the Monk, and we're going to go over just a couple of builds that you're going to find in Season 22. Some of the two most popular builds that I found on the PTR. Stick around, you're going to want to check it out. So just as kind of a little preface to this video, both of these builds, much like my last video, if you haven't checked it out, I did a video talking about the Necromancer. The Monk builds are kind of similar, and I think this is kind of a pattern that you're going to find across all classes. There is a specific kind of build that's sort of the meta, and it's going to be topping the charts for the majority of the time. This build kind of has been around for a while. It is the Tempest build with the addition of Kanai's cube slots and shadow clones. It does kind of change the game up a little bit, but for the most part, both of these builds are going to be revolving around that particular skill. But it's not going to be leveraging the same gear. So you might want to check out and maybe decide what kind of gear. And the playstyles do actually vary between both builds. So let's get right into it. So the first build that we're dealing with right now is actually the Justice build. And I call it just the Tempest build. I don't have a special name for this one. I know I did in my last video. For this one, we're just running Tempest Rush, that is. The idea is that you want to build up stacks with your Tempest Rush, because with Flurry, the longer that you're using Tempest Rush, you're building up stacks. And then after you stop, all of those stacks get released into an explosive damage that deals 90% weapon damage per stack. I think you guys all pretty much know the skill layout, but we'll go over it super quickly. We have Serenity. Obviously, we want to stay alive. Tempest Rush with Flurry, Blinding Flash, Faith in the Light, Sweeping Wind, Master of Wind, Epiphany with Desert Shroud to get that extra defense, Mantra of Salvation with Agility. This will increase all of your resistance and your dodge chance, greatly increasing your defense. For passives, we got Seize the Initiative, Near Death Experience, Guardian's Path, and Beacon of Etar. Now, the gear, the Justice set has been around for, I want to say, at least a few seasons, and it is incredibly powerful. The biggest thing here is hitting with Tempest Rush while Sweeping Wind is active increases the size of Sweeping Wind, and it also increases all damage dealt by 15,000%. Now, that sounds like a ton, and it is. Don't get me wrong, it's a lot of damage. It's not as much as you would think. 15,000%, like that's, but it's not as much as you might think. So we do use the Justice set. We also use Caesar's Memento, which is going to increase the damage of your Tempest Rush for 5 seconds after you hit them with your blind, freeze, or stun. So you want to make sure you have, that's why we have Faith in the Light with Blinding Flash. This will increase your damage, the actual rune that I've chosen, but this is actually the big reason we want to use Blinding Flash. I use Captain Crimson's Silk Girdle, and I use the pants because I have this Primal Weaves of Justice. You definitely want to have Captain Crimson's because you're going to be stacking a lot of cooldown reduction in this, and whenever you do that, you want to think Captain Crimson's, because the more cooldown reduction that you stack, the more damage you're going to be dealing. And then the damage taken is going to be reduced by your percentage of cost reduction. So if you want to, squeeze in some resource cost reduction somewhere, I definitely encourage you to do that. This build uses, uses Shenlong's Spirit, which is pretty cool. I think it's a little bit stressful to maintain and manage, but it's super powerful. So if you don't know what Shenlong's does, it's an older set. It's been around since the dawn of time. So when you reach maximum spirit, all of your damage is increased by 350%, just a huge amount of damage. But you no longer passively regenerate spirit, and 65 spirit is drained every second until you run out. That's kind of the downer of this whole thing, because once you run out of spirit, you can no longer use Tempest Rush. So what you kind of need to do, and you'll see when I go into the gameplay, is you need to kind of manage your spirit, and then when you're ready to do your big attack, you want to let your spirit max out and then start running out, and at that point you'll have that 350% damage boost, and you're gonna do trillions and trillions of damage. We also have Unity, Convention of Elements, and Flavor of Time. So for my cube, I use Balance, Mantle of Channeling, and Ring of Royal Grandeur. It's pretty standard. You gotta have Ring of Royal Grandeur so that you can have the Captain Crimson's included in your build. Some people like to use Lefebvre's Soliloquy. I think it's also very good. You can choose to use that if you want to. For the fourth socket right here, you can choose to use all kinds of other things. You can use Lefebvre's Soliloquy there. You could choose to put Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac if you're running low on cooldowns. Be creative with what you actually want to build it out with. There's all kinds of different items you can use that go pretty well with this build. But this bit right now in the PTR, the fourth slot isn't actually activated. They said because they're extending the PTR, they're going to be activating and deactivating here and there the shadow clones and this fourth socket just for testing purposes and see. But I do believe that most people are running either like including Lefebvre's Soliloquy or Stone Gauntlets in this as well, just for that additional toughness. Because I think one of the big downfalls of the Monk in this particular build is just the toughness. When we move over to Sunwuko's build, you'll see that the toughness is not really an issue. But so let's go ahead and jump into a Greater Rift. Let's show you guys what this build is all about. One disclaimer though, so this build relies heavily on toughness. You need that toughness. And right now I only have the one Flawless Royal Diamond. I have these other emeralds from the vendor, from JankMM. For all intents and purposes, I recommend using diamonds instead of emeralds here, so you can get that extra defense. So that's just a disclaimer. And it's because of that I'm going to be putting this actually on a lower level. We'll do it on just like a 90, and we'll show you guys what it's all about. So immediately you want to pop Epiphany and your Sweeping Wind, and you just want to start spinning. And as I said, cooldown reduction is huge for this. So you can see I'm already kind of missing the mark on my Epiphany, and that is a big reason why Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac is so essential in this build, or at least highly recommended. Because you can see I'm just about like 5 seconds off. It all comes down to spirit management, and that's really what this build is all about, is managing your spirit and making sure that it's not too high and it's not too low, and that when it maxes out, it maxes out at the appropriate time. And that's probably one of the bigger challenges of this build. But if you can get it right, if you can really nail it, stuff just becomes a cinch. And it does become a lot easier when you have your Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac, because that's just one less thing for you to worry about. It's all about management, man. If you see the Shenlong start to go off, you should just do it. If you see your Convention of Elements is in the cold, let your stacks rip, man. Just let it rip. So you want to build up all your spirit, just build it up, build it up, build it up. And once it starts to run out, like it is right now, Blinding Flash and attack, and you'll get a big boost in damage. All right, Rift Guardian's up. Let's see how fast we can kill this guy. So let's let our spirit max out here. Oh, maybe we can get it all at the same time. Yep, spirit maxed out. We got cold. 230 trillion damage with both. That was amazing. So we had Shenlongs going. We also had the cold of our Convention of Elements. And we had a decent amount of stacks, not full stacks. I think that is the dream. If you can manage your spirit and your stacks all surrounding the Convention of Elements and Shenlongs, you're gonna do. I've seen a 400 trillion damage crit from myself. I've heard of crits up to like a quadrillion. It's pretty nuts, but it's all about timing. It really is. All right, so the second build is Sunwuko's build. This is leveraging Sunwuko sets, the Wan Kim Lao, and is also using Vengeful Wind. It is almost exactly the same. The only difference is we're using Harmony instead of Guardian's Path. Harmony gives you 40% of your single element mental resistance from items, instead increases your resistance to all elements. Let's quickly go over the items and we'll jump into the gameplay. I think most of you are familiar with the build, but if not, here it is. Vengeful Wind and Wan Kim Lao. Vengeful Wind will increase the amount of stacks of Sweeping Wind by 10, and it will also increase the damage that it deals by up to 800%. Wan Kim Lao is hitting with Tempest Rush, will also use Cyclone Strike, and both skills will deal 600% increased damage. So that's just a crazy amount of damage right there. We're still using Caesar's Memento. We're still using Captain Crimson's Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac. Not a whole lot has changed. We're still using Mantle of Channeling. We're just actually wearing it this time. I have a Primal Ancient of this. And Sunwuko's build, we're using, I have the Primal Amulet, Primal Chest, and Primal Gloves for Sunwuko's, so I'm using those. You can rearrange it however you want, but make sure you're using Sunwuko's for this. In case you don't know what Sunwuko's does, the Tempest Rush has its damage increased by 1500% for each stack of Sweeping Wind. So let's assume we have 13 stacks of Sweeping Wind. That's, you know, I don't know, do the math. It's quite a bit. And then in Kanai's Cube, we've got, let's just move my camera here. We have Balance still. We've got Ring of Royal Grandeur still, and we have Stone Gauntlets. Again, same cube items here. You can use Lefebvre's Soliloquy. You can use Mantle of Channeling in there instead if you want, for the fourth slot. Stone Gauntlets is really good. It's going to be increasing your defense by a ton. So this is a very, very safe build. I think this is probably going to be the hardcore build we see more often than not, just because of how defensively safe it is. So let's check it out. Let's check out what this build can do. I am out of GFUEL Keystones, so I will be right back. I'm gonna go get one.
Hey, Hey, down here. Did you know that you can subscribe to the channel right now? Just click on the sub button. What are you doing? Come on, man. Just go ahead and click on it. It's free. You don't have to do anything. Just click on the button and you'll be subbed to the channel. What's the big deal? I don't get it. Hey.
All right, I got my GF Keystone. Let's go ahead and get to it, and let's talk about the play style of this build. Let's do a GF 90. Again, take off Epiphany, use Sweeping Wind, and start spinning. You'll notice that my cooldown is not really much of an issue right now, and that's because I'm using Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac, like I mentioned. I would say it's very, very essential to this build. You can stack as much cooldown as you want. I have stacked just about as much as I possibly can. I still sometimes run out of Epiphany. You want to make sure you keep your Sweeping Wind stacks up because that is what's going to keep your spirit continually regenerating to as much as possible. This build is much different. You don't have to wait for, Shenlongs to kick off. It's less maintenance in that regard, but it is more spirit hungry. So keep your Epiphany up at all times, keep your Sweeping Wind up at all times, and you won't run into any spirit issues. If you start to run into spirit issues, make sure you have your Sweeping Wind up at as many stacks as possible, and that's going to generate a lot of spirit for you. And then after you've got enough spirit, make sure you have Epiphany up, and that's going to get your spirit back up to where it needs to be. Right now, we're sitting just fine where it's at right now. And Epiphany is off cooldown when it needs to be. It just is it's a much smoother experience, in my opinion. You don't really have a lot to worry about other than spirit issues. Whereas the other build, while it is extremely powerful, and I think you can actually dish out higher numbers with the convention paired up with Shenlongs, I really do think that this is going to be the safer build to use because it doesn't rely as heavily on toughness. As you can see, my toughness is perfectly fine. Sometimes I've even seen it spike up much higher than what this is whenever I use my mantra of salvation. Let's show you guys what can happen when I hit this with 100 stacks. I won't use a power pylon just because I want you guys to get the raw data, the 100 stacks with cold. We're sitting at 50. We got cold going right now, but I want to let it run around one more time. Keep Epiphany up. It's important to keep Epiphany up. All right, 100 stacks right now, and let's find something to kill. All right, here we go, and it's that cold flash. 350 trillion damage right there to that one guy. It was totally worth it. GRIF 100 boss is probably something like maybe a fifth of his HP, something like that. So building up to 100 stacks and playing around that with convention elements, you're looking at a much safer build. I mean, the toughness is just off the charts, really good. Except for when I don't have Epiphany up, obviously. And that about wraps it up. Those are the two builds that I recommend for the upcoming Season 22 of Diablo 3. I don't know when it's going to drop. I was hoping within the next few weeks, but the fact that they've extended the PTR kind of puts that into question. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, make sure you check out my other videos. I have a wizard build video. I have a necromancer build video. I will post those links down below. I will also post the links to the Diablofans builds for these two particular builds for the monk. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. We'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment below what your favorite build is so far of the PTR. And I'll see you next time.